Hello, everyone. Welcome to At America TV. My name is James, one of the e-guides here at America, and we welcome our audience members joining us online. We hope that you're doing well and staying safe. At America is the U.S. Embassy's American Center, and our mission is to provide a space for young Indonesians to learn more about the United States. We have temporarily moved to a solely digital platform so that you guys could enjoy us from the comforts of your own home. Don't forget to leave your questions in the comment box section, and our panelists will answer them for the duration of this event. For those of you who are joining us through Zoom, welcome. There are a couple of features that you can use to actively participate with us. You can leave your questions in the Q&A box section and also use our chat box section to say hi to the panelists and our other participants. In this episode, we'll be having building strong CVs or resumes and letters of recommendations for U.S. graduate school applications. But before we begin, I have a little question for everyone for an icebreaker. True or false? The University of Washington plans for autumn 2020 plans includes in-person instructions. Stay tuned until the end of this program because we'll be giving a live shout out to whoever answered correctly at the end of this event. Other than that, don't forget to take a selfie and tag at America's Instagram account. Without further ado, let me introduce everyone to today's speaker, Kak Vina. Kak Vina, how are you doing?
Hi, James. How are you doing? I'm doing great. Thank you.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that everything's all right over there. Well, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, James. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. Welcome back to Ad America TV. My name is Fina. I'm one of the advisors for Education USA based in Ad America. But of course, as you may already know, we are now going virtual, but we are so very still excited. The whole Ad America team is very excited because we are still able to deliver you a lot of good information about studying in the US. And if this is not your first time, of course, you're already familiar with our past events, and in the near future, every week we're going to have a lot of interesting events. Let's see here. Tonight we're going to talk about everything that you need to know about CV, resume, and the importance of letters of recommendation. So this is part of step 3, which is completing your application. We are very excited because Santika told me earlier we have over 200 people register for this event. So I'm like, very excited about this. We still, see a lot of people are coming in to Zoom, but I want to also say hi to everyone who's watching us from the other platform. We are everywhere. We are on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We are also now live on Instagram. So wherever you are watching this from, feel free to stay there. If you have any questions, feel free to leave your questions, or if you have any comments in the comment box or in the chat box. But if you want to join the crowd here in Zoom, come over here. Go to Adamerica's website to see the registration link. And as long as you have the Zoom application on your phone or on your laptop, it will automatically let you guys in. All right, so I promise you it will be so very informative. I don't actually, because the topic is quite straightforward. We won't take a lot of, I won't take a lot of times in presenting it. But again, of course, after I'm done with the presentation, we are going to do the Q&A. So if you have any questions, for those of you who are in Zoom, feel free to leave your questions in the chat box. We already have our team here and Santika as well, who will, make sure that we get your questions answered. So yeah, get yourself relax, grab a cup of tea or coffee, and yeah, it's going to be fun. But before we begin, I would like to say hi to Santika, and if we can have the polling up. So this is just for fun. I just want to know where you guys are watching this from. When are you guys planning to start your US study? So yeah, hi Santika.
Hi, Fina. Thank you so much for opening our event tonight. I'm so excited to, moderate in the chat box. And for those of you who wants to ask question and you're not in Zoom, you can simply put it in the comments, and our team will pass it to us. And yeah, I have the polling with me. If you're, ready to launch it, let me know, and I'm going to launch it.
Yeah, I think we are ready.
All right.
Okay. So for those of you who are watching this not in Zoom, unfortunately you are not able to answer this, but this is just for fun again. There is no right or wrong answer. If you are in Zoom and you see like a pop-up polling questions, we'd love to see your answers to some of the questions. So the first one, we are asking you what level of degree do you want to study in the US? And because tonight is practically we are focusing so much on the graduate level, so of course I'm expecting to see a lot of master's degree and PhD prospective students. And the second one is, I also want to know, when are you guys are planning to start your application? Is it for fall 2021? Because this time around is basically when you want to start your application for fall 2021. And but maybe some of you are also here for fall 2022. Why not? You want to, be very prepared. Or maybe some of you are still not sure, which is totally fine. Oh, my favorite question: where are you currently watching this event from? Of course, we see a lot of you guys are in the Jabodetabek area, but since we are going digital, we also see a lot of people actually watching us from outside Jabodetabek, even outside Java. So would love to see that as well. And then, of course, we also want to know if you have had an advising session with either Santika or myself. All right, I'm just gonna give a couple more seconds. And again, if you're in Zoom, please keep the questions coming, guys. Any kind of questions, even though it's not related to CV or resume, and if you have more time later on for me to answer that, just ask the questions anyway. All right. Okay, 2 minutes is up. So I think, Santika, we can just end the poll and then we can share it so everyone else can see it.
Okay. Poll ended, and I'm going to share it now. There you go. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So 81% of you guys want to do master's degree. Great. 13% of you want to do PhD. The majority of you guys want to start your application for fall 2021. This is a really perfect timing for you to start. But for those of you who wants to do 2022 as well, that's totally great. We have 33% of you guys actually want to start your study at fall 2022. Yep, absolutely. The majority of you guys are watching this from the Jabodetabek area, but look at this. We got 5% from Sumatra. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for watching from Sumatra. We got 2% from Kalimantan and 8% from Eastern Indonesia. Hi. Thank you guys so much for watching this. And the majority of you have not had an advising session. Of course, we welcome you guys to use our service here in Education West America, which basically Santika and I, we always open our Zoom room every day. We are start from 1 p.m. until 9 p.m. All right. So if this is your first time and you want, so after this presentation, for example, you want to have a chat with one of us, we definitely welcome you guys to do it. It's going to be one-on-one. So a couple of people asked us if this is going to be like public type of an advising session, but no, it's going to be one-on-one. So you don't have to worry about share your information to others, or if you share your resume or CV to Santika or we're not going to share that to anybody else. It's just going to be to us. All right. Okay, so we can stop share the polling, and yeah, and then and Santika will definitely let us know during the event our Zoom room. So just in case you wanna take a note on that, feel free to do that. And all right, without further ado, I'm going to welcome myself to start the presentation. Let's see here. All right. I hope you guys can see this, and then I'm just going to. Okay, give me 1 second, guys. Sorry. Okay, so if this is your first time, and then you're wondering what is Education USA, we are basically part of the U.S. Department of State Network, or in Indonesia, bagian dari Kementerian Luar Negeri ya, dari Amerika Serikat. We have over 400 international student advising centers in more than 170 countries. So as you can see here, we are practically everywhere. The network, we basically give you a lot of information about studying in the US for higher education. So higher education means S1, S2, and S3. All right. So in Indonesia, of course, not only in Education West in America, but we actually have 8 centers with a total of 10 advisors. So in Jakarta, we have 2, one at the U.S. Embassy with David or Iqbal. So if this is not your first time with Education USA, probably you are familiar with some of these advisors. But yeah, at the U.S. Embassy, we have David and Iqbal, and in America, of course, Santika and myself. In Surabaya, we also have 2, one at the U.S. Consulate General with Haski, and then at Unair, Surabaya with Amber, and then we have one in Medan also at the U.S. Consulate with Jeffrey, and then we have one in Malang at Universitas Muhammadiyah with Zaki. We have one in Makassar at the Universitas Fajar with Chandani, and then last but not least, we also have Education USA in Banda Aceh at UIN Araniri with Lilith. So if there is no Education USA where you live, you don't have to worry, because technically all of us here, all of the advisors here are going to help practically everyone, basically everyone in Indonesia. So if there's no Education USA in where you live, feel free to contact the nearest Education USA center, or now that you are already here with us with Education USA at America, you might as well just contact Santika or myself, and we'll be happy to have a chat with you guys as well. This is part of our service. I'm not going to spend too long in this step, but we have 5 steps to guide you until you are in the US. So we start with step 1, which is research your options. If this is a very basic step, if you're still looking around some of the options for you to study, maybe private, trying to understand the differences between private or public, and trying to look around for the best location for you guys and stuff like that. We're going to talk a lot in step 1, and then once you are certain that you want to study in the US, we can move on to step 2, which is finance your studies, because that's equally important, right? Because we all know that studying in the US, it can be, quite a lot. So a lot of us, want to know some of your options in funding. Is it, you're looking for full scholarship, or maybe partial scholarship, or maybe by the time you come to us, you already have a scholarship already, which is great, right? And then we can move on to step 3, which is completing your application, which practically part of what we're going to talk about tonight. So there are actually a lot of aspects in step 3, and one of them is, what we're going to talk about tonight, which is the CV and resume and letters of recommendation. And then once you're done with everything, the application process, you're going to submit that. And then once you get accepted, we can move on to step 4, which is applying for your student visa. We're not going to apply the visa for you guys, but we are guiding you. And then, of course, last step is our PDO, pre-departure orientation. So this is basically for everyone who already get accepted, and they need to know, they want to learn more information about, the first few things that international students need to do when they get to the US, how to maintain visa and all that. Although this year might be different, because with the current situation, but regardless, we are happy to give you this information. All right. Again, if this is your first time and you want to meet one of us, so my name is Vina, and we have Santika in Zoom as well. Our advising hours is basically every day, from 1 until 9 p.m. And currently, because we're going digital, we are not available in person advising session. So currently we are doing an online advising via Zoom. So this is our ID. Basically, no password, is always open as long as there is no advising session. So you can just come in, and you don't also have to excuse me, you don't have to email us in advance asking, hey Fina, can I see you on Thursday at 7:30, for example, because our advising system is a first come first serve basis. So as long as the room is open, we'll chat. But if there's an advising going on, you're going to be in the waiting room, and then I'm going to give you a quick chat message in Zoom telling you guys that, hey, I'm currently in a session. So you can also email us if you are still not sure if you want to just talk to Santika or I. Maybe you're still, malu-malu or anything like that, and you want to just email us first, kind of, share a little bit about yourself and when you want to start your study. Feel free to do that as well before we move on chatting and via Zoom. So I want to also let you guys know, a glimpse of our upcoming events. So next week, this is going to be very, 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 very interesting. I love this event. Back in America, we always have this every month. And it's always, a full house. So I'm expecting it will be the same here when we're doing this next week digitally. So next week, we're going to have this session about essay writing. And if you see the time here, it's a little bit early than the usual one. So like tonight we start at 7, but this one will start at 6:30. It's because there's so many information that I would like to share with you guys about essay writing, because it's part of the application process that a lot of us here in Indonesia found it very, very challenging when it comes to essay writing. So yeah, I really hope you can join this next week on Thursday at 6:30. And then the day after, we want to, do a quick chat with you in our new series called AMA. And then you'll start seeing that in the next coming of weeks, we're going to have a lot of AMA series where we invite alumni, we invite incoming students. So yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting, especially for next month. We're going to have a lot of AMA series with an incoming students. For example, we have secured a date for a number of incoming students from the Eastern Indonesia. So for those of you from who is watching this from Eastern Indonesia, you will want to watch this, but of course not only for Eastern Indonesian people, but everyone, right? We want to hear from a lot of Indonesians who have successfully done with their application process and get accepted. We also have a session with incoming MBA students because we see that a lot of you guys want to study MBA. So this event is definitely for you as well. All right. And if you want to see our upcoming events, feel free to go to Education USA official website, educationusa.state.gov, or you can definitely visit at America's website as well, and you will see the registration link for Zoom for each event in that website. All right, so I will just start the presentation. So tonight, again, we're going to talk about building strong CVs or resumes. We're going to start with looking at the differences between the two, and then we're going to take a look at the importance of letters of recommendation for your graduate school applications. All right, so I always have this slide on my event. Just want to quick check with you to do a quick check with you, making sure that you guys familiar with all the requirements. So if you want to study in the US, these are basically the requirements that you will need. You definitely need to have TOEFL or IELTS, and then college transcript, CV and resume, and letters of recommendation, which what we're going to talk about tonight, and then GRE or GMAT. Not all programs will require you to do GRE and GMAT, but just in case the programs that you want to take require one. And then last is statement of purpose or personal essay. So I don't put this in a specific order. So doesn't mean that, for example, statement of purpose being the last, it's the least important. It's actually very, very important. You will understand more when I give the presentation next week. All right. So now let's take a look at CV and resume. What's the difference, right? So CV or curriculum vitae, it means course of life in Latin. So please take a second here, right? Course of life. So it means that practically everything in your life that you want to put it in CV. Although we have a timeline here, meaning that you don't want to put everything. You don't want to put anything before college. So like high school, even like junior high, you don't want to put it there. But I'm going to give you an example of that, a sample of what it looks like. So technically CV, it's over 2 or more pages, means that there is no page limit. You can go as long as you want, right, with CV, because again, it's course of life. Basically, you want to put everything. So it's a high level of detail about everything, your achievements. It covers education, teaching, and research experience. If you have published journals, you want to put it there. If you have done a number of volunteer experiences, you want to put there. So with CV also, it's static. It doesn't change for different positions. It means that you keep adding things as time goes on, right? So what you have put in your CV, you don't change that. You keep, but you keep adding things as time goes on. All right. With resume, it means summary in French. So we can say that resume, it's a summary of your CV. So it's a concise document, typically not longer than 1 page. So 2 pages are being a maximum, but if the university is asking you to submit resume, you don't want to go over 2 pages, right? So it's technically, it's a summary of experience, education, and skills. And if the university or whoever asks you to submit a resume, it means that the reader, they do not want to spend too long in reading your resume, because they have to do it really quickly, and so the goal is to make an individual stand out from the competition. And with resume, the difference with CV is that you want to adapt to every position. So you want to keep changing the content, following what you want to use resume for. So and here's the thing with what we have here in Indonesia. Resume is not a familiar term here in Indonesia, but we all know CV, right? We all know CV. However, the CV that you currently have right now probably is actually a resume, because I actually see a lot of the advisees who shared with me where, which they called it CV, but then when they share it with me, it's actually one page. And then I said, oh, this is actually a resume. So this is something that you want to pay attention to. So as long as your CV is only one page, technically it's a resume. All right. But if you have your CV that is, take 2-3 pages, that is, CV. Okay. So CV and resume, three major differences from those two slides that I just showed you is that now we know that the three major differences is the length, the purpose, and the layout. So what about them again? So CV, the length is they are long, meaning there's no page limit actually. But then again, you want to also be careful, because some of the universities have their own style when they are asking CV or resume. They might ask you for CV, but then they also said no more than 3 pages, right? So you have to be careful on that. But if they don't mention anything about pages, we can assume that's actually fine to have more than 3 pages. Okay. While resume is short, remember resume is only 1 page, 2 pages maximum, but please make it one if you can. And then the purpose, it basically covers everything. Remember, it's course of life. So it basically covers everything, even though it's not related to your, I don't know, if you're an engineer or if you're a doctor and you have other experience that is not related to those, you still want to put that on your CV. But with resume, you definitely want to adapt to your field, right? So if you're a doctor, for example, then basically the content of your resume will be everything about, like doctor profession and stuff like that. Okay. And then the layout, it's static. It means that you don't change anything in your CV. Instead, you keep adding things, right? Because there's no page limit. But with resume, it's highly customizable, because you want to keep changing the content depending on what you want to use that resume for. So I'm going to take, we will compare between the two. So the left is resume, and then and the second one is CV. And you can see here, like with resume on the left, because the person the person has to pay attention to the limit at the page limit. The person, make all the contact information in one line, right? Whereas the second one, the right one, which is CV, the person actually doesn't pay attention to the limit whatsoever. I mean, you can go as long as you want. So here, every line is basically the address, the email, and what have you. Okay. So what's common to both is contact information is always at the top. And I don't see this as a problem with our version of CV here in Indonesia. All of us always put contact information at the top. The color of the paper, however, if you guys have one that is, with blue or some other colors beside white or light cream or gray paper, we want to change it back to this, colors, to white, light cream, or gray. Just make it white, right? I know that a lot of CVs that I've seen, it actually looks really great. I mean, it looks so pretty in a way, but when it comes to making a resume or CV in the US, we definitely want to make it as simple as possible. And then you will see on my next slide, when we take a look, like the outlook of all resume and CV, it kind of like look really boring. It is really, really boring. But I totally understand why the US style is like that, and I'm going to tell you why. So we want to keep it to US letter. We don't have problem with that, because we are in Indonesia. We use alphabet as well. Keep the size of your resume or CV 12. I see some people in the past make 11, and that's still okay, but don't make it into 10 because I can totally see the difference and it's too small. So this is, the continue, the what the rest of the resume and CV looks like. Um, uh, Let me go back real quick. The after contact information, and this is something that is quite different here in Indonesia. I see a lot of people after contact information, you go ahead with work experience, and then you kind of like put education somewhere else. But in this case, we definitely want to put education after your contact information. All right. And then with resume, again, because we have a page limit, we want to keep it very straightforward. But with CV, if you want to talk about your thesis, even mentioning your advisor, and if you have won something during your education, you can put it in CV. But with resume, if you can, just you want to put it, your education information in there, and then followed by working experience, or maybe if you have a lot of teaching experience, you can definitely put that as well. But you can see here in resume, you can see here how it looks very straightforward. Like this person, okay, work as a research assistant at Faces research project, and then bullet points, bullet points, bullet points, and then each bullet point is explaining the responsibility, explaining the achievements, but the person also make it very concise. And then this person keeps doing that for the rest, and then because this person is quite active at school, in college, in this case MSU or Michigan State University, that person also create another, a separate category, which is affiliation. So technically, when you create a resume or CV, there is no specific rule on what kind of category that you want to have. So you can call it working experience or professional experience. You can call it whatever you want. So there is no, like specific rule on that. But then again, here on the right side, when we look at CV, the person actually pay a lot of information in there. Like after this person mentioned about where this person works, she or he can spend a lot of information in there. Okay. Content, you want to make it in reverse chronological order, so most recent first on top. Okay. There's no I statements in resume or CV. So you don't say I conducted interviews or I answered da 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 da. You don't use an I statement in your resume or CV. You can put reference at the end, but you don't have to actually, for if you want to use this resume or CV for applying to US universities, because they already asked you to have a letters of recommendation anyway. So this is what the resume looks like in one page, right? Looks very simple. Well, at the same time, looks very boring as well. Just like, there's no, I don't know, there's no artsy kind of look here, right? Compared to what a lot of us might have. But I totally understand why that is the case, because now that I also read a lot of CV and resume, and when I review like essay and this type of documents, I started to familiarize myself how I can do it really quickly. And then by having this kind of outlook, it looks very straightforward, like I can do this for no more than 30 seconds. So this is something that you also want to remember when it comes to resume, because remember on my first slide, when I said that whoever going to read this, they don't want to spend too long looking at your resume. So I'm talking about no more than 1 minute, right? And if I really look at this really quickly, I can do that within 30, 40 seconds max, right? I don't want to really pay attention. Like, I don't want to like read every single thing here, but just skim it really quickly, right? Oh, this person, Avery Black from Traverse City in Michigan, education. Oh, she graduated from MSU with 3.9. This person is in Dean's List, which is great. Graduated in May 2016. Experience, worked at community as doing community outreach intern, and this person did this, from June to August. Great, and it's very very straightforward, right? I can find all the information that I need in this document very, and it looks very neat, like every timeline is on the right side, so I can take a look. Okay, so if I want to come back to want to check again, like how long this person works at whatever company, I can take a look at on the right side, right? And this is not really the case when we have our CV in the Indonesian style, because sometimes we have like two different rows, and then the left side is your personal information, and then the right side is your work experience. And then when I see that, it just confused me a lot. Like, where should I go first? Am I going on the left side, but from top to bottom? Or so it's confusing, right? So almost every time our advisee sent me the resume or CV that is not using this template, I didn't even bother to take a look at it. Just looking at the artsy type of CV, I simply send the CV back with an attachment of a sample of US CV and resume. And I told them, please use this Outlook first, and then change to this Outlook first, and then come back to us, and then I will take a look at the content. All right. So now that you are watching this session, to save the time, you want to start follow what the Outlook. You want to start follow the Outlook here. And if you want to, if you want to know where you can find it, I mean, you can simply Google it: US CV sample, US resume sample, something like that. This is what US CV looks like. Again, this is just like page one. And then you can see here the person actually pays spend a lot of information in education, right? But then again, you don't want to put everything before college. So you want to start everything right when you start college, right? And then again, this person's think that I have a lot of research experience, but I also have a lot of teaching experience. So this person create two different categories on that. One specifically research, and then the other one is teaching experience. And you can definitely do that. All right. And then a whole lot more of category that you want to start create. So for example, if you are already an awardee of specific scholarship, or maybe you have won a lot of publications in the past, maybe you want to start creating a separate category called publication. Or maybe you have received a lot of a number of honors or awards, and then you can actually put it there. All right. So CV and resume, how is it different in Indonesia is my favorite part. So please share with me, or maybe now when you look at this, you can pretty much say, oh yeah, this is kind of like what I have. Who doesn't have a picture in your CV and or resume? Almost everybody here in Indonesia will at some point have their headshots. And now you know that when you want to create a US CV or resume, you definitely do not want to put a photo. It's not like it's the regulation. Is just that I feel like if you put that, people in the US will find it odd, and maybe they might smile a little bit, kind of, why are you, sharing what you look like? Because this is not, we have a different culture in the US and here in Asia, or maybe like even in Europe, because I start to realize that CV and resume in Europe is pretty much the same with us in Asia. So I think the US style is the only one that is different. So how is it different in Indonesia? No picture. The reason is because technically they don't care what you look like. It's totally different here in Indonesia, right? Like wherever you want to apply for a job, for example, almost even like the employers want to know what you look like. And that's technically against the, in the US, you can't do that kind of discrimination. Here in Indonesia, probably people want to know, the employers want to know, are you wearing hijab, or or maybe like if you're even, or we're looking for good looking applicants, and I found it really ridiculous, if you ask me, because the first time I have CV and resume was when I was in the US. So when I'm back to Indonesia, I have my US style of CV and resume, and a lot of my friends found it really weird when they look at mine because there's nothing in there. There's no picture of me, and I was like, why do you want to look at what I look like? Why do you want to know what I look like? So no picture, guys. No religion. I see many times here that you put religion. Again, I found it really ridiculous. Period. In the US, this is considered discrimination. You can't you can't hire someone based on their religion, based on what they look like, based on their race. No marital status. I found it also ridiculous here, and I'm sorry that I keep using the word ridiculous. I can't find any better word, but it's just simply ridiculous because um, uh, here I found, a number of companies, want to know if you're married or no, and maybe they prefer younger applicants or something like that. In the US, they are not allowed to do that, and no other unnecessary information, which I see a lot. Share with us in Zoom, in chat, if you want, like what you currently have. Like I see hobby, I see I can't remember, but there are so many other things that a lot of us actually put in the CV or resume, which I found it quite, again, ridiculous. And I want to explain a little bit about why that is not the case in the US. So let's talk a little bit about the history of that, right? So there is an act called Title 7 of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 that said a federal law that prohibits employers from discriminating against employees on the basis of sex, race, color, national origin, and religion. The good news is that, so this is we're talking about in the professional world, right? But the good news is that this Title 7 also applies to higher education institutions as well. So that definitely includes universities, right? Including employment agencies and labor organizations. So now you guys can see how it's so much different than here in Indonesia, and I'm actually a bit sad when looking at how we are doing things here in Indonesia. The fact that we are so diverse, but still, when you have when you apply for a job, the employers still care what you look like, which so now right, when you want to study in the US or even when you want to work in the US, you have a peace of mind now knowing that whoever you are, they will accept you regardless. All right, so now let's go back again with resume and CV, especially for grad school. So technically, the most of the universities for masters or PhD will at some point ask you to submit either CV or resume. All right. Although, because if you are applying for master's degree or PhD, we assume that you already have a number of working experience. So in that case, a lot of the universities will ask you to submit a CV. But then at the same time, they can also probably ask you to just submit resume or maybe a combination of two. So you have to come back to what the university is actually really looking for. Resume and CVs definitely can be a very useful way to represent yourself holistically because, they are asking you to submit your transcript so they know if you're doing great back in college. But then with resume and CV, they can, have a better understanding of your, I want to say, like your timeline, your biography in a way. Like, oh, I get to know this person graduated from this university from this year to this year, and this person works at this company from this year to this year and stuff like that, right? Let's see here. But then, yeah, at the end of the day, you definitely want to pay attention to each school that you are applying. because they might ask you again a combination, or for example, a number of universities, they have their own sample of CV or resume. And that's something that you definitely want to pay attention and follow, right? That's it. That's basically everything about resume and CV. And I feel like it's very straightforward. It's short information, but it gets you, right? It gets you. Now you know. Now you can brag to your friends who wants to study in the US but don't know that resume is like this, CV is like this, so you can share it with your friend. All right. So now let's talk about letters of recommendation here. So what is a letter of recommendation? The way I look at a letter of recommendation is almost similar to essay, but essay is a story about yourself that is being written by you. But letters of recommendation is something that it's similar. It's telling the reader a story about yourself, but it's written by someone else. So it's a detailed discussion from the referees of the personal qualities of yourself, of your accomplishment and experience that sets you apart from the other applicants. So it's pretty similar to essay, and you will understand better when you attend the essay presentation next week. Okay, and who wrote the letters of recommendation? If you want to apply for a master's degree, it can be from two different category of people. The first one is academic, meaning from faculty members, or it can also be from professional, such as administrators, your direct supervisors, your employer, or your boss, your employers, right? Technically, you want to find the right person who will write your letter of recommendation, and they are those who know you well and can technically vouch for you. It's very obvious, right? You don't want to find someone who will write bad thing about you. So how important are letters of recommendation? It's always required for almost every graduate school application. Your transcript, your standardized test scores like TOEFL or IELTS or GRE or GMAT, and essay as well. It factor in a lot in your application process. But letter of recommendation, because in the US, the way they review you as an applicant is very holistic. So letter of recommendation is also very important because they want to know from whoever going to write that letters that this person actually going to bring in a lot of new value to the university. So you definitely do not want to underestimate the importance of these letters. Okay, and normally the university will ask you two, but sometimes it can also go three. And some universities will specify on who's going to where the referees will come from. So maybe they're asking you one. Okay, so we asked you to submit two letters of recommendation, one from academic and the other one from professional, or maybe both from professionals, or maybe they don't even mention they don't even mention it. They just say two letters. So, and again, you have to really pay attention to what the university is actually asking for. Okay. So if you have a university that asks you to submit more than one letters, you want to make sure that each recommender will say something different. So you don't want to. So for example, like if you feel like you are so good in leadership, for example, you don't want that two referees talking about leadership, right? Just one will do. But you want to kind of like think about what other what do you call it? What other thing about yourself that you want the referees to mention. And so yeah, you can basically be upfront and talk to them about what you want them to say. And of course, make sure you give your recommenders plenty of lead time. And this is going to be a lot like a problem here in Indonesia, or maybe not. I don't want to generalize just Indonesia, maybe like everywhere, but we tend to do everything very last minute, right? Let's agree on that. Let's admit that. So for example, like you have your application deadline in, I don't know, for example, like in September, and then you just ask the referees a month before. And I know for some of us, think that a month before is actually a lot of time, but maybe not so much for the referees, right? Maybe the referees are so busy that they don't even have a time to actually write it within a month. So you definitely want to be very early in this, right? Even though if it's like a year, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I mean, you don't have to ask them to start writing the letters a year before the deadline, but just by asking them first, hey, would you be willing to write a recommendation letter from me because I'm in the process of applying to US universities, right? It doesn't have to be now, but I just want to give you a heads up, just something like that. It's very simple. And this is something that I don't want to, but you don't really have to worry about this now. But when you are in the application process and when you are about to upload all the documents online to the universities, oftentimes the university will ask you if you want to waive the right for FERPA, and a lot of us confused about this. The short answer for this is say yes, but you don't have to worry about this. It just means that because letters of recommendation is something that the university considered something that you confidential, something that you are actually not supposed to know what is being written on the letter. So they just want to know if you actually willing to waive that right, and technically people can just say yes. All right. So who should write the letters of recommendation? Basically, I covered that earlier. Definitely someone who knows you well, someone who knows you well, someone who knows your work, someone who you believe that that person can vouch for you with your plan to study in the US. All right. Provide all necessary information in the letter. But the thing is, so for example, if the university asks you to submit a letter of recommendation, one from academic, and then probably some of you have graduated 5-7 years ago, and probably the professor will is don't remember a lot about you back then. So you want to give all the necessary information. And so how can you do that? Well, a lot of things, maybe not all of this list, because then it kind of like you giving them a homework to write this, because you don't want to bother them so much, but you want them to really want to write it for you without bothering them so much. But you can kind of like fresh their memory. You can share about some of the information about, do you remember when we take this class and stuff like that. So you can give them their transcript so that they can see that, oh, you graduated in this classes with, you passed the class in this classes very well. Give them your essay draft is also a good idea, so then they have a better idea of what you want to do in the future. Maybe at this point you're kind of like not sure what to write in the essay, but don't worry, that's something that we're going to talk about next week. But yeah, and then you will understand why I put admissions essay as part of an information that you can give to your referee. So let's see here. The recommenders asked me to, okay, this is very very, I don't know about other countries if they do this in Asia, but I see that it's always the case here in Indonesia, where the recommenders ask me to write it for them. The question is, can I do that? Or maybe you don't even ask this question. People here, technically, before they ask me, they already know that they are going to write it. But technically, no, you can't write it. Ethically speaking, you are not supposed to write letters of recommendation, period. No excuses. But I will give you the excuses anyway. But technically, again, you're not supposed to write the letter. The referees are, okay? And then now you start to think about, but Fina, it's impossible. The referees, have all these excuses. So let's see all of the excuses, right? So technically, if the referees refuse to write it themselves, the way I look at it, I assume that that person is not willing to write it for me, right? But then maybe you are saying, no, like this person really wants us to write it for me, but it's just that this person is really busy. I find that it's kind of like an excuse, because I can totally see myself, if I have worked with a really amazing advisees, and then that person asked me to write a recommendation letter for them, with all my heart, I will be willing to do that, right? So if that is the case, if you have already explained to them that in the US, when we're talking about being ethic, it's not right when they ask you to write it, then try to find other referees. If the referees ask you to write it for them, again, you are not supposed to say yes, but then you don't want to just say no and that's it. But then you want to explain to them why that is the case. And so you can technically tell them that, yeah, because a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago, I watched this session from Education USA. And then maybe you want to tell them Education USA is part of the US department, make it, I don't know, if you want to make it very official, that this is under the embassy and stuff like that. So to tell them that this is a really serious thing, because it is a really serious thing. You definitely do not want to avoid this, right? So you're definitely not supposed to say yes. And that if one of the reasons why do they refuse to write it for you guys is because I can't speak, saya nggak bisa nulis pakai bahasa Inggris saya jelek banget, kamu aja deh yang tulis. It's always like that, right? It's often like that. Then offer your help to find them sworn translators. You can tell them that, Pak, Bu, nggak apa-apa banget. Don't you worry. The universities actually, understand that, right? The referees can write it in Bahasa, and without you reading that, or maybe you can give them information about if you can bring this to a sworn translator and I'll work the rest, like you're going to pay the fee and all of that. Make their life very easy, but then at the same time, check with them first if they're really willing to write one for you. They should want to do it, So again, the admissions committee take this supposedly confidential letters seriously. And if they ever found out, they could reject your application right away. And then maybe some of you guys are thinking, oh, how can they found out, right? Trust me, they can. So I'm going to give you a little story. So when I just started Education USA, right, like a couple of years ago, back then I still say I still say yes to people who want me to take a look at their letters of recommendation. And this person said that, oh no, I didn't write this, but I just, the referees allow me to actually read the content, and I just want to go through with you if the letters looks okay. And so before I look at the letters recommendation, I read this person's essay first, right? And here's the thing, I'm not an English native speaker. Aku bener-bener orang Indonesia. Bahasa Indonesia is my first language. I read this person's essay and I said, okay, we're going to have a lot of revision here and there, blah, blah, blah. At some point, I know this person's writing style, right? And then I was, after that, I told this person, okay, so, you can take a look at the letter of recommendation. And then me as a non-English native speaker, when I read the letters of recommendation, I told this person, there is no way that this is not being written by you, because after reading that person's essay, I can totally see the similarities in the writing style. And that's me, a non-English native speaker. So can you imagine how an English native speaker can catch that very quickly? So yes, you do not want to mess with this. If they ever found out, trust me, even though you graduated with 4.0, even though your essay is the best essay that they have ever read, but if they ever found out, they will reject your application right away. This is why I use the word ethical when we're talking about resume and CV. It's all based on trust when you apply to US universities, but if they ever found out that you violate that trust, they will definitely reject your application right away. I know I sound like I really try to scare you, but I am because I don't want you to really, take this thing lightly. Okay, we come to the end of the presentation here, so I'm just going to go real quick. Just want to show with you guys what letters of recommendation look like. um, a lot of, this is the old school way when the university is still asking you to submit or upload like a letter. So we still have some, letterhead. In this case, it's university letterhead or company letterhead and all this information. And then let's take a look real quick in the content, just to give you an idea of what the university is looking for when it comes to letter of recommendation. So the first paragraph is basically an information about the referees, a little bit about, like, where does this person know you from. And then the second and third paragraph is when the referees is basically talking about you. So it starts with, so in this case, talking about Jane, who is a highly intelligent and has good analytical skills. The problem with our letters of recommendation letters recommendation style here in Indonesia is that the referees oftentimes do not really elaborate more in what it means by Jane being highly intelligent and has good analytical skills. Probably the person only give you, a very short explanation of what intelligent and good analytical skills are, but that's not what the reader is actually looking for. But the reader really wants to know, okay, so Jane is a highly intelligent person and has good analytical skills, but in what way exactly? So here the person, give an example, right? And so this is why every recommenders will want to write a different thing about you. So if you're going to ask from your direct supervisor and your boss from one company, you have to make sure that those two people won't say exactly the same thing. So for example, like, for me, for example, like I have, I don't know, like I'm just going to copy from the third paragraph here, have an excellent communication skills, and basically the two people from the same company talking about the same thing. That's not what we're looking for, right? We don't want that. Okay. And then and it doesn't have to be this long, to be completely honest with you, but normally after that you can kind of like, the referees can talk about on a personal level. So if you come back to the previous paragraphs, the first two skills is professional, and then after that, the referees talk about you on a personal level, and that is okay too. And then the closing statement, which is when the person really vouch for you that you're going to bring in value to the universities, and the goals that this person will want to do in the future will definitely help Indonesia, or something like that. Okay. And this is just like the overall look of what the letter of recommendation looked like. I actually got this from UC Berkeley. So if you Google it, I don't know if it's still there. I got this quite, a while back. But if you just Google UC Berkeley letter of recommendation sample, or just sample of letter of recommendation US university, just play around with the keywords when you Google it, and then there are actually a lot of universities in the US share this kind of sample on their website, which is super duper helpful, right? But then again, you don't want your referees to write exactly like this. Of course not, right? So you don't want that as well. But this is just to give you an idea of what the referees can actually talk about. And of course, be sure to send a thank you note. Don't forget about that. Like, you don't want to forget about that, right? Because, send a thank you note. And then, of course, back to the resume and CV, get one of the Education West Side America advisors, such as Santika or myself, to check your resume and CV, not letters of recommendation, because ethically speaking, that's not right. We are not supposed to know what's inside, unless the recommenders allow you to know what is inside. Then technically you can read what is inside. It's going back to my slide when we're talking about FERPA, but again, you are not supposed to be the one who writes it. All right, good luck, and I'm going to end this presentation. I'm going to go back to, all right, so Santika, how are we doing so far?
Hi, Vina. Thank you so much for the very much detailed presentation, and I feel like I learned so much. And our chat box is I'm really happy to have lots of questions, and we also have questions from Instagram and Facebook and other platforms. And I have answered some of your questions in the chat box in the Zoom. So go ahead and check it out, and I'll read the name that I have answered in the chat, just in case you missed what I write in there, and you can check it out. So I have answered Hasna for your first question and your second question as well. And Murni, your first question is answered in the chat box.
Great.
Yadi, who else? Risa, and I think Murni again and Hasna again. So basically, chatting back and forth with you guys, and Muhammad Daniel also got your answer in the chat box. And the rest, I will hand it over to Fina to, the Q&A. So,
All right.
send us your questions.
Okay, so we have one from Kurnia, yeah?
Yeah.
From Kurnia here at Zoom. I hope you're still watching. So I'm currently working for the government, but really interested to take an MBA. I'm sure that it's related to my current and future job. Is it possible to make my resume seems interesting enough to apply MBA? Any suggestion? I would say the thing is with resume or when you create a CV, I actually got this question a lot. A lot of people, hey Vina, so I didn't graduate with a major that I want to do for my master's degree, or your college degree and what you've done with your working experience is not on the same page basically. And then a lot of us not sure if that's okay. Well, technically it's okay. If it The thing about resume and CV, my suggestion is, I mean, you don't have to try so hard to try to make the content is very business like or very MBA stuff like that. But because it's something that I don't think you can change it, right? Again, like if even if your working experience is basically working in the government and there is nothing business about it, yes, the university might, especially for MBA, because again, MBA is very selective programs because who doesn't want to do MBA? So a lot of MBA schools will want to see what kind of business experience that you have in the past. But I mean, in this case, again, even though you don't have a lot to put in your resume, that sounds very business. But that's definitely something that you can work on your essay for sure. Right? So I hope that helps. We have, and then again, Kurnia, if you're kind of like still not satisfied with my answer, we can definitely chat some more in Zoom. But that's something that I can share with you. We got one here from Novita Ramadaning from Zoom as well. I don't know exactly about American education. Is it very different from education in the UK? It's not related to the topic tonight, but this is a really good question regardless. So I'll be happy to answer that. You know what? To be completely honest with you guys, I don't know a lot about education in the UK either. But what I know so far is what I heard from my advisees or alumni who went to the US, but then they shared with me what is going on with their friends who went to the UK. The way I look at it, the difference between the US and I almost say Indonesia, the US and the UK is that in the US, the way I look at the alumni between people who went to the US and people who went to Europe or elsewhere is that people in the US is very specific in a way that they already know exactly what they are going to do when they are back. So it's not like you are trying to get a degree and then when you're back, you start all over again, which is something that a lot of us are really scared about. A lot of us think, I'm so fed up with my current working situation. I just want to do master's degree without really know what you want to do exactly. This is not the case for people who want to study in the US. They know exactly the problem, a gap in skills and a gap in whatever Indonesia need help on, and they want to do something about it. So the way I look at it, like in the US again, in terms of like the education itself, it's not just you going to class, listening to the professor's lecture, and then you read the book and you took the task and that's it. But it's about theory. Yes, you still want to be in class and hear all the lectures, but it's all about innovation as well, right? Whereas in Europe, the way I look at it, or maybe like even in Australia or Asia, it's you definitely get the knowledge, but then it's not necessary that when you come back you know exactly what you want to do. And this is what I actually start to see a lot from people, even like my friends, right? I didn't do masters, but um, my friends who went to master's degree in the UK or in the US, it's just like very different. A lot of us, when it comes to do a master's degree, the thing that we want to focus on is the degree, right? We want to flash that degree when you're coming back to Indonesia because, hey, look, I graduated from the US, I graduated from the UK. Look how I'm amazing, right? But in the US, they don't really care that so much, but then they have things to get things done. I don't know if that makes sense, but I hope it does. But then again, if that's something that you want to talk about more, we can definitely have a chat on that. We have Nimade Dwi Darmiyanti from Zoom as well. Besides applying for Fulbright, I'm also thinking of applying for graduate assistantship. What should I highlight on my CV? Do I need to highlight different things on my CV for this to scholarship? What do you want to highlight on my CV? I mean, of course, for example, if you graduated from a degree that is pretty much linear to your working experience, and then also it's pretty much similar to what you want to do for a master's degree, that itself is already a highlight, right? So for example, like if you want to do MBA, but then at the same time you graduated in accounting or business, and then you worked in consulting company, and then now you want to go up, right? Or maybe you want to you know do something when you're back to Indonesia with that MBA degree. That itself is already something that you already highlight. Again, this is pretty much similar to Kurnia's question. Something that you want, that people tend to try to change what is in there, but I don't really see it that way unless you want to apply for the next 3-4 years, something that maybe you can have a better time to change your career, then yeah, by all means do that. But other than that, just put everything that is about you. And this is something that so the reasons why I have an essay event next week is because it's going to be very related to what we're talking about tonight, right? You will understand better why people found essay really, really challenging. Because essay is like, it's about story, but then a resume and CV, it's something that I see that. So for example, like I started with educational essay 4 years ago. There's nothing that I can change there, right? So again, yeah, I don't really see that to change. So as long as you have done whatever it is that you're doing or you have done in the past, then you want to put that in your resume or CV. Let's see here. We have Mirza Arshad from in Zoom as well. What is the difference between US versus Europe resume? Yeah, no, good question. This is definitely something that I shared with you guys earlier. I actually just started to realize that the style of European resume is similar to what Indonesians are having. Because a lot of times when I ask my advisees, that I told them, you want to change the whole thing. And then they said, really? Because I followed this resume, or I followed the CV based on the European style. And that's not just from one advisee. So then that's when I started to realize, oh, okay, so now we know European style also similar to us, or maybe we follow their style. But that's not definitely the case in Indonesia. I don't know if you watch us from the beginning, but I talk a lot about the fact that we don't put photo, that stuff, the discrimination stuff, that I found really disturbing, is definitely not applicable in the US, right? From Betari Bunga, answered in chat. Okay. Betari Bunga from Zoom. Should we put our impact in our CV, or should we only tell our duties or responsibilities? Good question. Yes, you definitely want to put your impact. So this is something that I definitely tell my advisors as well. You don't want to just put your job responsibility, but your achievements as well. That's really important. So the answer is yes. Should we put our GPA if it's not cum laude? Another good question. As long as you have good GPA, so good GPA, I want to say above 3.1. And I know a lot of people, really? 3.2? You want to put that on a CV? Yeah, well, I mean, 3.2 is considered really good in the US. Maybe not so much here in Asia, but yeah, definitely. So as long as you have 3.1 and above, you can definitely put your GPA in there. But if you even if you have if you're a cum laude, that's definitely you want to show that off. But yeah, even 3.1, you can definitely put that in your CV or resume. Sahril Kasim from Zoom as well. If the grad school that I intend to apply asks to provide either CV or resume, which one do you suggest me to submit? What is the strength and or weakness of those two? Good question. The easy answer is, what do you currently have? Because for example, there are actually a lot of people who just recently graduated from college and then only have 1 to 2 years experience. And when you start creating your CV or resume, you only end up with one page. So then in that case, if the universities ask you to submit CV or resume, then resume it is. But if what you currently have is actually more than one page, then that's going to be CV. There is no strength or weakness. It's just a matter of what the university is really looking for. Again, if they are asking for a resume, like I mentioned earlier on my presentation, it means that the reader doesn't want to read too long on it, so they just want to read it real quick on your resume. So if they give you that freedom to choose either CV and resume, good news. I love that. So that means you don't have to worry too much. Technically, you can choose between the either one of the two documents, and you don't have to worry if oh, my resume is only, if I submit resume, it will look less good than CV. It's not the case. If they ask you CV and resume, I'm in the US, they're pretty straightforward when they ask things. So for example, like if they are asking to write an essay as an optional, it's an optional. It means that if you don't submit it, I mean, it's good if you submit it, but then if you don't submit it, they don't care. It's optional, right? So it's similar here too, right? Melissa, from Zoom, is there any difference for CV or resume submitted for online graduate programs? Any particular information that needs to be emphasized or even avoided? Not that I've known of. I mean, it's pretty much the same online or in person. As long as it is in the US, then you definitely can use either one style that I've shared with you tonight. Retno Ningrum from Instagram. Hopefully you're still watching the session. Is nationality also forbidden to be written in our city? This is a really good question, but yeah, no, I don't see why they should care about where you're coming from, right? I mean, in the U.S., especially for the U.S. universities, they always value diversity. So, yep, nope. I don't see nationality should be in your resume or CV. Ilha Rafael from Zoom. What kind of community should we inform in the resume to make it stronger? Is it some non-profit community or some community for which we have an achievement? Definitely. Well, I mean, all of those technically. Something that this is a really good question, actually. Something that I haven't covered tonight, but which thank you for asking that. So technically, in the US, they really value community work. Community works can be a lot of things, can be volunteering, which sadly, it's not really the case here in Indonesia, right? Like, or maybe like in Asia. I mean, I don't know. Again, like, I don't want to generalize, but the way I look at it, me as an Indonesian, who have an experience in the U.S., so then when I come back, I see that for us, volunteering is not really our thing because it's all about what's in it for me, you know. But in the U.S., volunteering, they really value that. They don't really see it that way. They don't really see volunteering, they don't really see community work as something that they are expecting to get something back in return. Something, yeah, something back, something, yeah. So in this case, everything that you mentioned here, but then again, at the same time, I don't want people to, oh, okay, I'm going to apply next year, so now that I know the US, you know, love a lot of community works, I'm just going to do it, not that I want to. So we don't want that either. I mean, well, technically you can if you want, but hopefully you're doing community work because you want to, not that you have to, right? But yeah, no, it's definitely everything that you mentioned here. Nonprofit, or maybe something that you've, even like, even if as small as, I don't know, teaching English
Mhm.
for a couple of weeks or something like that, that's totally fine as well.
All right, Fina. I
Yep.
think I have like some questions to answer for you to have a little break as well, and after that you can take it over again. Would
Great.
that be okay?
Thank you. Yeah.
So, a next question is from Facebook from May Patikawa. I hope you're still watching. So, your question is: I have received a formal degree some years ago and just completed some technical study. Which order should I put first, formal or non formal? The answer is you put the formal first and then the non-formal after the formal ones. And or should I refer to which was received latest? So it's a bit of an exceptional because we know that we have to write the CV and resume in reverse chronological order. But in terms of putting the education, I think it makes sense if you put it the one that is formal first and then the non-formal later on. I hope that answers your question. If not, then always find us for the advising session. And next one will be, where is it? Um, Okay. I think I lost the question here. Okay, there you go. From May Patikawa again. So there's two. Okay. I use the format from Career Center and the uni I want to apply. Is that okay if the format if is a slightly different from the one that I use as an example? So it really depends on what kind of differences you make from the format that you saw as an example. I will say a bit difference in length and maybe font types, as long as it's still not something fancy and readable. I think it's fine. But if you are telling a different format, it's like you are adding pictures or photos or a lot more unnecessary information, then I will say no to the different format that you use. So it really depends, and you can, for everyone who is watching this, you can send your CV or resume for Fina and me to see and kind of like give you an input if that helps. And yeah, I think that's it, and I'll give it back to Fina for the next question.
All right, thank you so much, Sandika. So we have Iman Prasetyo here and Zoom. Can we use the same letter of recommendation to apply to different universities, 2 or 3 universities? Yeah, no, absolutely. But maybe you want to definitely, uh, what do you call it? Uh, so for each letter, you want to tell the recommenders to, when the referees are talking about vouching you for by mentioning that specific universities, you want to make sure that the referees are changing the university's name. But yeah, no, absolutely, in terms of the content, when the referees are talking about your skill, that can be something that you can share with more than one university. And then he's asking also about, I went to 2 different universities. First one was one of the top universities for D3, and then for my S1, just an okay university. Is it okay if I choose reference letter from the top university, even though it's just for D3? Oh yeah, absolutely. And this is something that, again, thank you so much for asking this question. This is something that I haven't covered, which I always hope I can cover this during the Q&A. But oftentimes here in Indonesia, we tend to worry about who the referee is, in terms of like their position or from what company or from what university, which, to be completely honest with you, the way I look at it, they don't, yes, it's good if, for example, you have someone from, I don't know, like from higher position, like ministerial level or even presidential level or something like that. Is always good, but it doesn't mean that that's the only thing that they're looking at. Letters of recommendation is a letter that is written by whoever, the referees, but it's about you. So the content is more important. So they pay attention to the content more than who wrote it. So totally okay. Retno Ningrum from Instagram, how is your trick? How is your tips maybe to ask your referee for recommendation letter without being afraid that you will bothering them? Yeah, no, it's so much about the way you request this. Again, if you ask me personally, I will appreciate it if I have plenty of time in working on this. And 1 month for me is definitely too short. But if you can ask me, so for example, 3 to 6 months before, just to give me a heads up and keep giving me updates about your application process, give them, a kindly reminders once in a while. I will definitely appreciate that, and I believe that the referees will appreciate that as well. Majida Ulfa, in case I want to apply for scholarship and university, should I submit 2 different letters? Technically, you don't have to. This is similar to Iman's question. Again, it's the content, right? The 2-3 paragraphs when the referee is talking about your skill is what is really important. But maybe we want to change a little bit in terms of, the part when the referee is going to mention that, I vouch this person to apply for the scholarship. I vouch this person to apply for this university. So only that part. Akirana, what if we made the letter of recommendation right after every project done with my referees? But I plan to register university for next year. Will the letter of recommendation be approved? Oh yeah, no, absolutely. This is something that I did actually back in college. After I finished a class, and I know that I have a good relationship with the professor, even though I don't know when I'm going to use that letter for, I just asked the professor to, hey, would you be willing to, write me a letter of recommendation? And so, yeah, absolutely. This is something that you can definitely ask the recommenders to write you right after you're done with the project. Betari Bunga from Zoom. Should the reference letter use official heading or kop surat, or company letterhead or university letterhead? And should it be officially stamped? Definitely good question here. It depends if the universities are still asking you to submit the old school type, meaning that they still ask you to first ask the referees to upload the document. Then yeah, that specific document you want to put letterhead in there. And if it's from maybe officially stamped, yeah, I think for school, if that's not too much to ask the referees to get a stamp, then yes. But if not, I see that not really a big of a problem. So that's that. If the university is still asking you the old ways, meaning the uploading the document, then yes. But nowadays, a lot of universities are no longer asking in that way. So usually they have a link where they want the referees to open that link, and then when they open the link, it will look so much like just boxes, and then each boxes will have a question, and then so it's kind of like not doesn't look like a letter, but instead it's more like a question. So they want to know more a little bit about yourself. But it really depends on the universities. That's it. Right, Santika, do we have any more questions so far?
We do, but I don't think we have enough time because, we are closing in 3 minutes.
All
But
right. So I just want to say it's been fun. I mean, this is one of the topics that I love to present every month. CV and essay. Usually it comes, a week apart. So yeah, no, thank you guys so much for watching this session. I really hope you learned a lot from the session tonight. And again, I really urge everyone who has not done any advising with us to share with us your US study plan for fall 2021. So again, thank you guys so much.
yeah, so for those of you who tune in after right away, like after Fina give the introduction where our email and our Zoom meeting ID she shared there, I'm going to repeat it again. If you're shy, you want to email us first, go ahead to email us at jakarta.atamerica@educationusa.org. And our Zoom meeting ID is 276-124-396. You can join us between 1 until 9 p.m. except when we are doing session like this. And I also give this information in the Zoom chat box. If you are there, you can copy paste it. But for those of you who are watching from other platforms, there you go, and you can rewatch this in any platform that you prefer, like YouTube or our website or live stream. If you want to share it, let us know. And thank you so much for joining us. And that's it for tonight. See you in other Education USA events. I'll give it back to James.
All right. Thank you so much, Fina and Santika. The informative session has been really helpful. It's always great hearing more about Education USA. Early in the event, we asked you guys, true or false, the University of Washington's plans for autumn 2020 includes in-person instructions. And the correct answer is true. The university is issuing I-20s for future students. However, if future students won't be able to enter the United States by September 30, they should contact the university to discuss deferrals. Shout out goes to Maya Trainer on YouTube for answering correctly. Thank you to everyone who has participated. Don't forget to tune in next time and catch a chance to get a shout out from us. Now you may be wondering, how can I develop an awesome idea for a place like this? Don't worry, all you need to do is visit our website at www.atamerica.or.id. Select Create a Program and click Collaborate with us. All event proposals coming to us will be reviewed and your event might be featured here soon. You can also subscribe to our newsletter for all our weekly event updates sent straight to your inbox. That wraps this episode. It's been fun, everyone, but we have to say goodbye for now. Follow our Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at @ATAmerica for all our event updates, fun contents, and so much more. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for joining. Again, my name is James, and see you next time on America TV. Bye.